in racing, competition continues to get tougher. You've got to look at every part of the race car for performance advantage. Tell us a little bit about the AFCO low friction suspension package.
We're trying to take the bind out of the front of the car. You know, when we done a segment a while ago about cars wheeling real bad and how we can control that with shock valve. One of the issues the cars have to get the car to launch good is if you're using factory or OEM style ball joints, they're really, really hard to move. It takes a lot of pressure to get them moved. Same way with the bushings and the A-frames. I mean, I've seen cars literally that are bound up. Mm-hmm. You know, you can take the shocks off or jack the car up and the A-frame's hardly move. It's because all the bind in the front suspension. So what AFCO's come out with is a low friction ball joint and bushing kit that takes the bind out of the front of the car, lets the car work a lot freer, you know, so you're not losing suspension travel, you know, and the car is just a lot more predictable. Especially, you really notice it if you scale your car out, because you can bounce the front of the car and your scale numbers will come right back. With factory bushings, sometimes you got a bushing bind or an A-frame bind and it won't let the car come back to the original numbers.
Which could probably have an effect on how the car launches if it's a wheels up car, because it could start to move weight in the car.
It's huge, it really is, because this just lets everything work a lot freer.
Okay.
And what it is, on a factory ball joint, sometimes it takes like 40 foot-pounds of torque to move the stem in it. Mm-hmm. These low friction deal, it works really, really free. So you literally you don't have any bind in the front. Mm-hmm. We got them for several different applications. And on the lower bushings, the lower control arm bushings, we have it, of course, both for the front and the rear. You replace your rubber bushings with these. And they've got nylon in them to take the squeak, you know, so you don't have an issue that way. And they're also greasable. Real simple to put in. You basically push your old bushings out and put in, usually tack weld that ring on them so they don't slide. Okay. Same way on the ball joints. I mean, you just literally press your old ones out, press them back in. If you want a ride height change, we've actually got several different pin lengths available for applications. So if you want to lower the car, but you want to keep your front end geometry the same, mm-hmm. you know, your camber, you can actually do a different height on that. So it works out really well.
Okay, that sounds good. Probably helpful if you've got a car that's got a lot of front end travel and you want to keep the front geometry stable through the range of adjustment.
It's huge on that, it really is.
Working a race years ago, a gentleman saw the AFCO shirt that we were wearing, called us over and said, "Hey, I've got a problem here. Car just doesn't seem to be working." And it was a super stock car, and he was, you know, it wasn't the fastest car in the class, and they were running class at that particular race. So he took us through all the paces. You know, the shocks had been revalved, and the car just wasn't performing. And it was probably a 30-minute conversation. We were really drilling into the car and trying to figure out what was going on. Finally, somebody said, "Hey, wait a minute. When the car was down, when we had the engine serviced, we put new OEM replacement control arm bushings in this car." And I said, "Guys, I feel like that's probably what it was." So they went through the paces and they unhooked the shock and they did this and they did that. And what they found was those control arm bushings were binding the car up. Brand new control arm bushings are great for a daily driver, but at the drag strip, not what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's the deal. I mean, the OEM bushings are built, you know, or manufactured for a car that's going to go, you know, 100 or 200,000 miles. So the wear factor is huge. In drag racing, or any kind of racing, actually, the application is we're not going to go 100,000 miles, but we want the car to work free. And you can imagine if it takes 40 pounds for an OEM ball joint, if it takes 40 pounds to make this work, that times 4, that's a lot of drag or a lot of friction in the car to get the car to launch right. Same way with the bushings on that. The other nice thing about the bushings, you don't have with the factory rubber bushing on the lower A-frame. A lot of guys will tighten them up a lot so you don't have this kind of movement with the A-frame. That puts bind in the car. The A-frame won't work freely up and down. If you loosen them up enough, then if the car does wheelie and come down, you have some caster loss because the A-frame's trying to move back and forth during the landing on it. So
right.
It's huge, but it's amazing how much this frees the car up and how more consistent your car is going to be.
So what platforms do we have available here?
We have them for the F body, and the A body, and the G body GM products right now. And some of it can crossfeed over to different.
S10 would be a
S10 type of
popular
deal,
one, I think.
right.
Yeah. So there's 4 platforms there that I think we see a lot of those cars at the drag strip. So
All right.
really good package, it sounds to me.
Very good package, and it's available as a kit, or you can buy them individually. You can just replace your upper or lower ball joints or just your control arm bushings.
Very good point.
It's a real simple deal. It's amazing how much it frees front of a race car.